Hello, my dear friends, we are back again, and this time I will tell you the story of how I traveled through Honduras alone. So I backpacked across Honduras, and it was a ton of fun actually. I crossed the border overland and from El Salvador. And my last El Salvador video, I talked about how I camped out at the Spirit of Montana and I looked across to Honduras and Nicaragua. So that became my path forward. I was like, I'm gonna go to Honduras and Nicaragua. This is a part of a full expedition I did backpacking overland from Mexico City to Panama City. So I'll be telling you about my travels through there, as well as throwing in some other travel stories in between. But Honduras is a really cool place actually. I take public transportation throughout all of Central America. So I took a bus from the Honduras border into Tegucigalpa. So across the border here at El Amatillo, from El Salvador to Honduras, you have to stop at the immigration office. But before you get to the immigration office, they do a vaccine check. I hopped on a bus and it took me to this small town called El Aguate. And that's where you would stop and wait for the bus to take you into Tegucigalpa. Tegucigalpa is the capital of Honduras. And it is very, 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 very crowded. Everyone wants to go into the capital. So by the time I got there, it was late at night because 3 or 4 buses passed by me heading to the capital that were just filled with people. So if you're on the way there, get to Honduras very early because the buses are packed getting there in the afternoon. And I stayed in Colonia Norte, in between Tegucigalpa and Como. On the way from Honduras to El Salvador, I hitchhiked to the border. When you get to Honduras, you have to walk across the border, and it'll stop like pretty close by. You go inside of this building, they swipe your passport so you don't get a stamp. Wait, let me double check that. I was wrong, you do get a stamp. I totally forgot. So while in Honduras, I also couch surfed. To put it in plainly, I hitchhiked from the El Salvador border to the Honduras border. I hitchhiked part of the way. Then I couch surfed in Honduras. And I took the bus. You can just take public transportation from the border to the city, and it's great. I also took a bus out of the city too, into Nicaragua. So the next major city from Tegucigalpa is San Pedro Sula, and it's on the other side of the country. So you're going back towards the Caribbean, where I was on the Pacific. So that would have been a cross-country trek. And I was going south into Nicaragua, so that just didn't seem worth it to me, going back north and to the other side of the country. But from San Pedro Sula, a lot of people go to the islands of Honduras, which is also like a cruise ship stop. That's like the touristy spot. So Tegucigalpa isn't a very like touristy spot. So you won't find a lot of like typical tourist things to do and tourist attractions, but it's still a fun time if you want to go hang out in the city and just get a feel of what Honduras is like. The real question is Honduras safe? And I would say mostly safe, especially for tourists. I promise, I do not like seek danger out. I just happen to live my life whenever time of day it happens to be. So I get on the bus and I'm making friends with 2 ladies and we're all just like chit-chatting it up. We go all the way to Tegucigalpa and I couch surf. So I stayed with a friend. Thank you for letting me stay in your home. I really appreciate it. Cool story about him is that he is Catholic and Buddhist. So he's very peaceful guy. And he learned how to speak English in Colorado. After he turned like 35, he went to spend his like later years in his hometown. And he was telling me about where to go in Honduras and where not to go, and like which streets to stay away from, which was wonderful of him. Like, I really appreciate you. And also, this is also a place where you shouldn't go out after like 9 o'clock. You'll notice that the streets are completely empty at 9, after like 9 p.m. Because we went on top of the roof of his building and we looked out and he was pointing out each place to go to or not to go to. The biggest threat to your security is getting robbed at night, but other than that, you should be relatively fine. The golden rule is if you don't look for trouble, trouble will not look for you. But I should also mention in context that since I am black, people don't target me as much as they do my like pale skin counterparts, because most people are used to seeing white people as travelers. They're not used to seeing black people as travelers. So I'm not targeted at all, actually. I just be having a great time. So for tourists, I would rank this place as mostly safe, but for Honduran women, it's actually still very dangerous and they're targeted a lot more. That's because most people are willing to target what and who they know versus someone they have no idea about. There's safety in being a stranger, but this sign here is actually downtown that says, I don't want to be raped, and it's a campaign to stop harming and physically assaulting women, Honduran women. So safe for tourists, but for residents it's a completely different story. And that's why I want to tell you my experience as a tourist. I can't go on and tell you what it's like for a resident, especially a woman, because they have it significantly. I stayed at Palmyra Hostel, and it was very nice. It was very comfortable, but I do not recommend staying in the single bed multi-room dorms. There's just too many people. So I stayed in a private room, and the problems I had in Honduras were so small in comparison to the ones that people thought I was gonna have. For example, the guy who like went to show me the private rooms was gaslighting me about the water being hot. We went to go try to like get warm water in some of the rooms because he specifically advertised that the water gets hot. We go, and he's like, the water is warm, so I touched the water and it was not warm. Bro was trying to gaslight me. So the problems that I like experienced were so small, but the fun I had was great. St. Michael the Archangel Cathedral is located in the Central Park right next to a shopping mall, some outdoor shopping, a ridiculously crowded Dunkin' Donuts. Everyone's had Dunkin' Donuts. That was right next to a Little Caesars and a Burger King that was also insanely crowded. But look at this very normal scene of everyone just hanging out in the park. If you know me, I love religious architecture. The Baroque style will always be my favorite. You can see the Baroque influences because of the high vaulted cupolas, which are dome-like ceilings held up by rows of pillars, walls and doorways made of rough stones and smooth stucco. But if you look even closer, there's an extra element of elegance with the cream-colored walls and the sharp contrast of the red behind the mantelpiece, behind the altar, which is so visually striking. And even the gate has this beautiful curved-like structure we saw before. Oh, religious architecture, religious architecture. But this was also a very popular style in the 17th century, which is the same century this church was built. So after walking around Central Park and seeing the church, going to the mall, all that fun stuff, we took an Uber up to Parque El Picacho. Correct me in the comments, politely please. And going up there is the Jesus statue, Mayan ruins, and this amazing view of the city. Just mwah, chef's kiss. Also, it's beautiful. It has so much lush plants, so much like this beautiful park goes on for miles and has many different sections. You can explore the artful and very tasteful landscape arrangement. And this area that we're walking into right now is where the Kreiz of El Pachacho is. This is a 98-foot tall commemorative statue of Jesus Christ that was consecrated by Archbishop Oscar Andres Rodriguez, and it was built in 1977. At night, 60% of the population of the Central District can see the statue. Me getting casually blessed by the statue, hanging out. But if you look a little bit closer, on the other side, you can see this amazing view of the city from this statue, directly in front of this statue. So it is an amazing place to be. Great for pictures as well. And while looking at this view, I noticed something so interesting. There was a basketball court the shape of a basketball in the middle of town. And these are the Mayan ruins also at the site. So this park has several different things you can see and do. I would recommend going there early in the day so you have the opportunity to really walk around the entire park. The entrance fee was 81 cents or 30 lempiras. So the only problems I actually did have in Honduras was there's like barely any sidewalks, so walking around you gotta like duck and dodge some traffic. The second was having allergies. Allergies just had me in its grip. So not every country I go to have allergies, but I think some specific type of trees get me. So my face was like a pumpkin the whole time. That's about it. Yeah. I think someone catcalled me once, but I barely processed it. Some things I'm not afraid of and I don't really care about is getting catcalled, mainly because I don't speak enough Spanish to know the catcalling. Like, when you learn a language, you know it in its formal sense. So whatever like slang and whatever, all that stuff, I just don't get. Also, I just don't care. Like, it doesn't faze or bother me, but for someone who's afraid to be catcalled, it happened to me once while in Honduras. I got catcalled quite a bit in El Salvador. Where else? That's it, actually. So if you're going to Honduras, have fun. It's a good time. Don't be afraid of the world. And so I also make these videos because I really like showing that, one, you can travel the world as a woman, as anyone, as any human being. And two, I think it brings us all together, closer. I think when we can relate to each other, that would be how we can like connect peacefully. And three, to overcome unconscious biases, because we all have them. We all have them, whether you're aware of them or not. And lastly, because this was just planted in my heart and I couldn't stop traveling if I tried. If I physically tried, I couldn't stop. I'm just so curious. Like, don't you also want to know what they're buying in grocery stores? Or like, don't you want to know what the water is like somewhere else? Or don't you want to know like what kind of plants grow? I'm endlessly curious, so I love seeing it. If you have any suggestions of where to go, I want to take my Central America trip twice, because the first time around I went the Pacific side, second time around I want to go the Caribbean side, and I feel like there's just so much more to see that I didn't get a chance to see. I want to check out more small towns in Honduras, especially along the El Salvador border, because there's a lot of like history and culture there I just didn't get a chance to see. I had so much fun, and I hope this video inspires you to travel if you can, to visit places if you can, and mainly to connect with someone that you may not otherwise connect with. We're all so similar. We all like love the same things. We all do a lot of the same things. The world has a lot of similarities. And thank you to Honduras for having me, and thanks for joining me in this journey. I'm just getting started. I'm currently in Japan. This is country number 16 for me, and there's 196 countries to visit. So please subscribe, please like, please join me, and thank you for watching. Adios. Also, some funny tidbits. Honduras is easier to be vegan in than Japan. My next video is going to be like how to be vegan in Japan. Central America is an easy place to be vegan. Some parts of Asia are not. Since I'm traveling to every country in the world, I have to learn how to be vegan in every country in the world. So that's a tough one, my friends. If I'm looking a little gaunt, that's because of it. Okay. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. So I deliberately left out the parts about Honduras and the history with drugs and the really sensationalized topics that most videos talk about, because I feel like Honduras needs just one video talking about the place as it is, without bringing up how difficult its past and its history was. So we are not always saying Honduras as this like drug-riddled country, but as a real place with real people living real lives. And I couldn't help but to feel like I think sensationalizing suffering is a way to bring apathy to Honduran people experiences in any place that's had a recent and very big conflict in like the last maybe 50 years. We lose the ability to empathize and relate when all we see about a place is their suffering. But I wanted this video to be a way for each person outside of Honduras to relate to the Honduran experience. Everyone's had Little Caesars. Everyone's gonna go to Domino's, but not everyone has faced a civil war. And I want to get past that apathy we feel when we see another story about another place that's been harmed or hurt. And that just feels wrong to me. So I hope this video was enlightening and you learned more about what life is like in Honduras and how great it is and how many great things there are in Honduras despite all the difficulties in the past. My channel would never be the type of channel that will sensationalize someone else's suffering, because that just feels wrong to me. It just feels so wrong. I had a wonderful time, and I cannot explain enough how grateful I am to Honduras and Honduran people for allowing me to visit and to be there. Okay, that's actually enough. End of the video for real. Bye, guys.